Howdy, folks. It's your friend Max Mogren reporting live for you from beautiful Winona, Minnesota. This is Wake Up Wyoming. I'm still visiting family, my little brother's wedding, Dad's birthday. So kind of a short show today. I've got to go help my little brother install some flooring at his house. But let's get right into it. Thank you all for tuning in here at Wake Up News. It is September 18th, 2017. And we're going to get right into it. We're looking at the local papers here today, the Pioneer Press. This kind of sums up the paper in Minnesota. Get your booze, Minnesota. But let's get into it. Thank you all for tuning in. As you can see, our top headline there, this really shocked me. This is yesterday's Pioneer Press out of Minneapolis, or St. Paul, excuse me. Union, thousands of firefighters didn't work during Hurricane Harvey. Okay, there's 3,900 firefighters in Houston, and only 900 of them work. Many of those who did work went 2 or 3 days without a break. So this is really strange. Hey, Joel Cleland, what's up? Thanks for tuning in. We got 41 viewers here. Kind of a short show today, but let's get into it. You know, this just kind of showcases the absurdity of modern government responses to disasters. Of course, Hurricane Harvey could have been prevented. We have the technology to steer storms, but instead we had the most damaging hurricane of all time. And during that hurricane, over 75%, about 77% of the firefighters were told to take the time off. On Sunday, August 27th, as fast rushing water chased people onto their rooftops, about 3,000 firefighters were instructed not to report to work. An agonizing order for many eager to assist in rescues. Houston Fire Chief Sam Pena acknowledged that 3/4 of the force was asked not to report, but said that the department was fully staffed. The decision against a full recall, which Pena said was made based on staffing needs during past disasters, left a crew of 900 firefighters responsible for the 650 square miles of Houston. Many worked 2 or 3 days straight without a break. There could have been people here to help us get out of here, she said, talking to Debbie Martinez and her 3-year-old granddaughter. It doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense. During Hurricane Harvey, 3,900 firefighters in Houston. 3,000 of them were told to take the time off, while the ones who did report to work had to work 2 or 3 days straight without breaks. It makes absolutely zero sense whatsoever. I guess that's just how the government works these days. Looking at that's yesterday's paper. Again, we did a little video the other day. London's still on critical alert after the arrest of the bucket bomber terrorist. Interestingly, you know, I don't know. I'd like to get people's thoughts on that. I put a video out on that, and it was really unusual. You know, a quick video. Again, I'm visiting family, so I don't get to spend too much time with my family, so I'm devoted more to that than the online show right now. But I put out a quick video the other day, and it was about the London bombing. Immediately got trolled, had several blatant trolls show up. And when I got back from going for a bike ride with my dad, about 4 hours later, I got back and I noticed my headline was totally botched. The first word, London, was spelled wrong. It was spelled Longon, Longon. And I typed that on a laptop here. I'm looking at my laptop right now as I'm broadcasting to you. It's damn near impossible to create the typo Longon, Longon, when trying to type London. And I'm pretty sure I typed it properly. In my eyes, it kind of looks like a little covert censorship there to introduce typos. I don't know if anybody else has had similar problems. You know, we try to keep a high standard here at Wake Up News, especially with our writing, and to misspell London in a headline is a serious offense in journalism. So I apologize that happened. I'm pretty sure I didn't do it. And, you know, we had 8,000 people watch that video, so thank you. But I'm sure a lot more people would have watched it if London wasn't misspelled in the title of the video. So, I don't know. It was weird. But, internet censorship takes many forms. I know in my experience, I've gone through an article, written an article, proofread it several times, then I'll publish it, and I'll go back and read it, and I'll find 5 typos that I couldn't possibly have missed. It's a weird thing. Lindsay Sartain chiming in. This happens to me all the time on Facebook, and yes, I've been thinking the same thing. Typos, right? Typo censorship is real. The internet is an extremely impermanent medium. It's one thing to print a book, and you can't change a book after the fact, but the potential exists to change things that are written online. And I'm pretty sure, that the D and the G are not next to each other on the keyboard. There's an F in between them. For me to type long gone instead of London is impossible. I wouldn't, So apologies for the typo. I don't think I did it. Speaking of things changing online, if you haven't seen it yet, Zero Hedge reported, it's in our headlines today, Amazon.com deleting most reviews of Hillary Clinton's crappy new book, What Happened? It's hilarious how this stuff works. Hillary's new book was averaging about a 2.5-star review. Half the reviews were for 5 stars, half the reviews were for 1 stars. Sounds like there were some very funny reviews in the 1-star categorization there, and Amazon took them all down. Okay, it was 50% 1-star reviews, and what many have dubbed a flagrant intervention by Amazon itself to seemingly boost the ratings of Hillary Clinton's new book, What Happened. Many others observed firsthand that Amazon has been monitoring and deleting 1-star reviews of her new book, which was greeted with a torrent of criticism on the day it released. And they actually have screen caps here from the Wayback Machine. If you haven't seen the Wayback Machine, it's a great resource for us because it does show what websites looked like in the past. And on the 12th of September, when the book came out, at 2:55 p.m., she had 50% of the reviews were 1-star and 46% were 5-star out of 1,616 reviews. Interestingly here, though, it's really strange. With that many 1-star reviews versus 5-star reviews, it's still giving her a 3.5-star rating, which doesn't make any sense. And then by 5:23 p.m., 3.5 hours later, there were only 442 reviews, and 97% of those reviews were 5-star. So here we see another prime example of internet censorship in action. People legitimately reviewing this book, having their reviews taken down. Literally hundreds, almost 1,000 reviews of Hillary Clinton's book. So it's sad. David Coco, Rico Sedano saying same thing with Netflix because Amy Schumer's shit stand-up. I haven't seen that, but yeah. Jerry Wallace chiming in. I post all your posts, Max. I checked it. It was spelled right on mine, London, right? So, I'm pretty sure I don't know how to spell London, but my shit got changed. If you reviewed Hillary Clinton's book, if you gave her a 1-star review, odds are your review got taken down too. This is what we're facing. Of course, there's other forms of censorship too. For example, if you share this video, you share a video from We Are Change, you share an article from the Anti-Media, Mint Press News, odds are a lot less people are going to see that show up in their Facebook feed than if you were sharing something from CNBC or MSNBC or Fox News or CNN, whatever. The point is that we in the independent media, we as activists, are obviously censored online, and it's sad. It's sad, but it does showcase how this is what they have to resort to keep the truth under wraps. So it's up to us to keep pushing forward. Whatever news sources, whatever people you agree with, whatever you believe in, keep up the good work. We are winning this. The fact that they have to resort to blatant censorship, to typo censorship, to algorithm censorship, to the censorship of book reviews, just to make it look like everybody loves Hillary's new book. I'm not going to read Hillary's new book. I couldn't care less. But the fact that they have to delete reviews to make it look good is just heartbreaking. Lindsay Sartain chiming in, hey, will you maybe one day do a video on electromagnetic warfare and electromagnetic effects on the brain and body? Lindsay, that's a great question. We can actually touch on that today because it's in the paper. We don't see this very often. But in the Pioneer Press today, the U.S. may shutter its embassy in Cuba after sonic attacks on diplomats. If you haven't followed that, it's disturbing. And it, I don't know, man. I am of the opinion personally, and I've researched it quite a bit, and it's something I've been hesitant to talk about since I first started to become aware of it about 5 years ago, because maybe people think you're crazy. But I'm under the impression that we're all kind of subjected to a sonic attack of sorts, where we're all kind of dumbed down by our smartphones, our Wi-Fi, our smart meters, our smart TVs, our smart refrigerators, all these things. So yeah, but out of Cuba, you don't see this in the mainstream too often. The Trump administration is considering closing down the recently reopened U.S. Embassy in Havana following a string of unexplained incidents harming the health of American diplomats in Cuba, Secretary of State Rex Tillerson said Sunday. Tillerson's comments were the strongest indication to date that the U.S. might mount a major diplomatic response, potentially jumper, blah, blah, blah. But what happened? People were having difficulty remembering things. People were having, they're hearing noises. Of the 21 medically confirmed U.S. victims, diplomats and their families, some have permanent hearing loss or concussions, while others suffered nausea, headaches, and ear ringing. Some are struggling with concentration or common word recall, the Associated Press has reported. Some victims felt vibrations or heard loud sounds, mysteriously audible in only parts of rooms, leading investigators to consider a potential sonic attack. Others heard nothing but later developed symptoms. Okay, so that's pretty disturbing stuff, right? And I don't know about you all, but there are times, from my own personal experience as an activist, somebody who's been active doing this stuff for a long time, I'll go out and go like hiking in the woods, or I'll go on a camping trip for a couple of days, and I'll find an incredible clarity of mind. I'll find like my brain is working quite well. I'm full of great ideas, full of creativity, and then I'll go sit down and, I'll go home, sit down in front of the computer and start trying to type something. And the next thing I know, 5 minutes later, my brain feels like it's made out of oatmeal. Okay, I feel totally numb. Like my memory's gone, my inspiration's gone. Has anybody else had similar experiences? And it is extremely disturbing. David Coco Rico, Sedano sound waves can be weaponized. Absolutely. And so can, we saw that at Standing Rock with the sound cannons on top of the tanks there, the MRAPs, the armored personnel, mine-resistant armored personnel carriers. But on the same vein, electromagnetic frequencies can be weaponized too. Okay, it's very important to note. This is something it's been on my radar for years, but it's like, for me, it's been a difficult topic to breach because A, I don't want to sound like a crazy person, but B, I don't want to scare the shit out of people. And C, when you really think about it, it's kind of like, to focus on that issue extensively is extremely depressing. So maybe it's time that more of us are focusing on that, but until we have, I don't like to present problems unless I have a solution. And given the fact that everybody is so addicted to their smartphones by design, that we are continuously bathed with electromagnetic frequencies of all sorts, be it from Wi-Fi, smart meters, cell phones, radio stations, televisions, the list goes on and on. It's like, what do we do? I don't want to put people into this depressive spiral or make people paranoid and feeling like they're under a constant electromagnetic attack, but that very well could be the case. So it's a disconcerting thing to think about, and we see evidence of these sort of things happening in Cuba. Okay, of course, when it's happening to U.S. diplomats, it's reported on. But when it's happening to all the rest of us all the time, it's not reported on. a good example, if you want to broach this topic, if you want to breach this topic with people, you can tell them about the history of the television and how even the oldest televisions emit beta waves. Beta waves putting people into the dream state, putting people into kind of a trance or a hypnotized state where they're much more prone to suggestion. Larry Ramirez chimes in, you know what's funny? Everything you talk about, a lot of it has been on Rick and Morty. I love Rick and Morty. That's like the only that's the only TV show I watch. It is a very thought-provoking cartoon. David Cocorico Sedeno saying, oh man, it's cool. Pull out that tinfoil hat. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Joel Cleland chime in, and Tesla apparently had a machine that exploited all the electric energies in the atmosphere for free energy. Yeah, Joel, I think it was called Wardenclyffe Tower back in the 1890s. Super fascinating stuff there. But, it's cool to see that in the paper today, some coverage of this sonic attack thing. I don't know what the best way is to raise public awareness about electromagnetic frequencies, but I will say the one thing that's cool is that these technologies that are potentially being used to hinder human creativity, hinder the human capacity for memory and, effective energy, like positivity, you can use wireless electromagnetic frequencies to increase the human capability, to increase human creativity, to increase the human capacity for positive change. So, every problem contains its solution within, right? Moving on. Typical disability backlog, over 1 million. This is the Winona Daily News, the local paper here in Winona, Minnesota. Thousands of those denied benefits die waiting for a hearing. More than 1 million Americans await a hearing to see whether they qualify for disability benefits from Social Security, with the average wait nearly 2 years, longer than some of them will live. All have been denied benefits at least once, as most applications are initially rejected by the Social Security Disability Administration. But in a case where the outcome of a case often depends on who decides it, most people who complete the appeals process will eventually win benefits. The numbers come from data compiled by the Social Security Administration. So there you go. You hear it there first. Well, not first. Front page headline there in the Winona Daily News. If you apply for disability, you're going to get rejected outright because you got to work for it, right? If you get your leg chopped off at work or you get paralyzed, of course, they're just going to say, nah, you're probably fine. Walk it off, buddy. But there are over 1 million people waiting for a ruling on their disability benefits. So there's your tax dollars at work. The Winona paper also covering the closing down of the Cuba embassy and the sonic attacks. So that's pretty cool. And then coverage of the St. Louis police officers' acquittal protest. The Daily Hayes, Miko Hayes of the Daily Hayes, a great guy who was out at Standing Rock working hard, reporting that, where the heck is it? Sorry. St. Louis police caught on camera breaking windows during the protest in St. Louis. Just as everything is not as appears online, in real life, there's some shady business going on too. The protesters in St. Louis are being accused of breaking windows, of vandalism, but there's video evidence caught by one of the protesters that the police were breaking at least 2 windows. Following a not guilty verdict in the Jason Stokely murder trial, people took to the streets of St. Louis to protest the unjust decision. During the protest on Friday night, a bizarre act of vandalism was caught on camera. Chris Phillips recorded the incident, which occurred at approximately 11:32 p.m., and posted it to his Facebook page. The video shows a police officer breaking out a window of Culpepper's restaurant located at 300 North Euclid Avenue. Okay, so there, we know this. We've seen this before. We saw it at Occupy Wall Street. We see, there's all the footage of Occupy where there'll be the so-called Antifa, the Black Bloc protesters, all in black. But some of them are cops. Some of the people inciting violence at protests or causing vandalism at protests are agent provocateurs or police officers. There we saw in St. Louis a very blatant example of that. So there you go. Yeah, at least 2 windows. Joe Cleveland laughed. Well, the point is that they're doing it and that they blame protesters for it. Interestingly, in other protests, if you didn't see, the Juggalos took to D.C. There were 3 events in D.C., and the biggest event was the Juggalos. Of course, the Juggalos declared a gang, or what were they declared? A terrorist organization by the government several years ago. It's cool to see the Juggalos fighting for their rights. Like in Wyoming, Idaho, out west where I live, we're going to see individual payer, especially those who are low income, their rates going up greatly for the Affordable Care Act. Here in Minnesota, Minnesota, a very progressive state where generally people really stick together and the government, for the most part, is on the people's side trying to do good. Well, they started this reinsurance program in Minnesota hoping to save a lot of money for people who are buying individual plans under Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act. But if this reinsurance plan isn't approved by the federal government by October 2nd, individual market premiums could jump 20%. Okay, so Minnesota attempting, the state government of Minnesota, a bipartisan effort to keep insurance premiums low for people that buy through the Affordable Care Act. All the federal government has to do is give its stamp of approval and say, yes, you can go ahead and do this statewide reinsurance program. But so far they haven't done that, and that could result in a 20% premium increase. Of course, in Wyoming, for the lowest paid people buying Affordable Care Act plans, we could see increases of 48% this year. I think in Idaho they're saying 30%. So that's pretty common all over the states. Minnesota taking proactive steps to prevent that, but they could still see a 20% premium increase unless the federal government gets their heads out of their asses. What else is going on? We got the climate change hoopla. I don't want to say I'm checked out, but I'm focused on other things at the moment. My show is probably not as good as it could be. And I just want to let you know that Hurricane Jose may threaten New York and the East Coast next week. So that's what we got out of the papers. Pretty good papers out here. And let's see what other headlines we should be covering. Okay, we did the Amazon reviews, we did the firefighters, cops breaking windows, the sonic attacks, Apple's new iPhone. Okay, anybody out there, I'm curious, is anybody going to buy the new Apple iPhone X? Is anybody going to spend $1,000 on that? I'm curious. I know I'm not. Personally, because of my awareness of electromagnetics, I prefer a phone that I can take the battery out of. If I'm not using this thing, I shut it off. And I hope you do too. But at the same time, if you have a phone like an iPhone or one of the newer, fancier phones where you can't take the battery out, like, how do you know that thing's not zapping you with stupid rays while you're sleeping? Or zapping you with insomnia rays while you're sleeping? You don't really. So I like to do the $100 burner from Walmart or wherever. You can get them online. Where you can take the battery out. But Wired reporting today, Apple's Face ID could be a powerful tool for mass spying. Okay, the new Apple iPhone X emits 30,000 little infrared dots that hit your face, and that's what's used for facial recognition. So it's some really high-tech facial recognition software. Even the mainstream chiming in on this one that, wow, this is kind of taking it to the next level with facial recognition. Of course, Facebook uses similar technology. You post a photo of you and your friends, Facebook automatically says, would you like to tag so-and-so? Our facial recognition our faces are on file. But this Apple thing takes it to the next level. And the disturbing thing there is that when you are arrested, the police like to get into your phone. Of course, you have the right to plead the fifth. So if you have a passcode on your phone, the officers can't just jump into your phone. But with this new facial recognition stuff on Apple's new phone, they could hold the phone up to you and bing, use your face. While you're handcuffed, they could use your face to unlock your phone and access all of your sensitive information on there. So that's pretty interesting. And the Age out of Australia asking today, what happens when Big Brother lurks in every smartphone user? On a similar topic, Joshua Reeves, an assistant professor at Oregon State University whose book Citizen Spies was released in March, sees a disturbing phenomenon emerging fueled by a culture of mutual surveillance fostered most recently by counterterrorism programs such as If It Doesn't Add Up, Speak Up. In order for these programs to work, you have to tie snitching on people, to moral and social responsibility. And you have to teach citizens that they are under threat, and that in order to handle that threat appropriately, they have to be watchful and suspicious of their fellow citizens, says Reeves. Reeves doesn't question the value of reporting serious felonies to police, but he does point out that snitching has resulted in some truly awful outcomes, such as the 2009 case of a boy set on fire because he was thought to have reported a bike theft to police. In the U.S., antipathy to tattling has even spawned its own movement. The Stop Snitching campaign features T-shirts with targets, bullet holes, and the phrase, "Snitches get stitches," something Baltimore police counter with their own pro-informant Keep Talking campaign. Okay? So the whole snitch thing, you think about it, everybody has a smartphone in their pocket. There are these new apps out there that can be used to snitch. So I'd encourage you not to snitch. Yeah, I have to go to the bathroom. I've done this once before, so I'm going to go pee. I'll be right back. All right, I can't believe you're still hanging out. Thank you, 96 viewers. I feel so much better. It's amazing how much relief you can get. We got some laughter. Anybody got any questions? Lay them on me. Again, sorry this isn't the best show. I'm in family mode. I've got to help my brother rip up a bunch of carpet and install a floor today. He's got a baby on the way. So, real life, real world stuff. I think that's something that I'd like to stress on this show a lot, is that we can spend all our time online if we want to. We can spend all our time staring at our phones if we want to. But it's probably better to get out there in the real world and do real world things. We can be totally aware of everything. You can spend all your time trying to figure out what's really going on in the world. But if you don't apply that knowledge to real life, what does it matter, right? So go out there, be active, engage your community, take care of the people you love, your family, your friends, your neighbors. Get out there. The real change, it takes place online, but it also takes place out in the streets. It takes place in the gardens. It takes place in the forests. And at the same time, if these technologies are a Trojan horse, if they are manipulating our behavior or our moods or our spirituality or our sleep cycle in some way, then engaging in nature, at least for a few hours every day, is extremely important. We don't have any horoscopes in the paper, so I'm not reading those today. But, again, that's that. Mark Schultz is saying, congrats on being an uncle. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. This is, I don't have any kids myself. It's funny. I wonder about all of you, too. For me personally, I'm not afraid to say how I really feel. it's like I feel the urge to have a family. I feel the urge to like settle down. But at the same time, how do you like be aware of the electromagnetic manipulation of humanity and want to bring a child into your world and take care of a kid if you're legitimately concerned about getting zapped, right? It's a dilemma. So for me, I don't know if I'll ever get to have that, but it sure is great to have nieces, nephews. So I do have some kids in my life that I can take care of. Dominic Goodson says, keep waking people up. Man, thanks. I will. And I appreciate all of you tuning in. Again, like, share, subscribe. I'll be back in Wyoming pretty soon, back on my grind as usual. And so appreciative. I love you all for tuning in. Thank you. Let's keep going, keep pushing it forward, and keep waking up our friends to the reality of the world. Stay active, stay optimistic, stay focused, and I'm signing off for today. Check wakeupnews.net. I've been posting links. I've been harvesting news links from a researcher named Rice Farmer. He's based out of Japan. I've known about his work for a long time. I don't agree with his perspective on where we're at as a civilization entirely, but at the same time, I think his research efforts are very on point, and I think there's a lot of validity to what he says. So I've been using his site as a source of links and republishing that on wakeupnews.net. If you want more news than you can shake a stick at, check out the Wake Up Wyoming news links, which I posted there. I'll also post a copy of this live video. And that's it. Mark Schultes is asking for links to the cops vandalizing. Mark, I'll reply to your comment here with that. It's on the Daily Haze, and it is also on wakeupnews.net in the Wake Up Wyoming September 18th, 2017 post. So check that out. The video's on there at the Daily Haze. So thank you all for tuning in. I'm signing off for today. Y'all take care. One love. Peace.